Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? My last video was on interviews, how to prep for interviews, if you're sort of an anxious person when it comes to interviews, and that video I made right after I've had all my interviews, so it was fresh in my mind. So this time I read a lot of personal statements because it's application period, it's June, July, so over the past 2 months. I sort of volunteered to provide comment on SDN, and I've gotten like a good number of requests. So I've read, I would say about like close to 30 personal statements for this cycle. So it's pretty fresh in my head. Some of the common patterns I see, both good and bad, are fresh in my head. So I thought I'd make a video about it. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk about it. I just have like a small list I made of good things I saw and bad things I saw. So I don't have to completely improvise like last time. So yeah, so let me start with some of the good things. So disclaimer, this video, what I'm about to talk about here, is not 100% objectively backed by data or by research, at least not that I know of. It's entirely based on what I felt was good, based on my own judgment, and bad. And it's also based on some of the feedback I've gotten for my comments. So yeah, so take it with a grain of salt. I think these are good points that I think would help you guys, but it's not 100%. So take it with a grain of salt. So yeah, so some of the good things. So some of the things that I think should have an essay should have to be a strong essay is, number one, the most obvious. The essay should answer the fundamental question of why do you want to be a dentist, right? You can write whatever you want on the essay, but eventually the essay, if summarized to maybe like a sentence or two, should be able to confidently answer what the personal statement is asking, which is why do you want to be a dentist? Not why I should be a dentist, or not what I've done to be a dentist. It should answer why do I want to be a dentist, based on relating to my personal experiences, my personal values, things I've overcome, some of the self-reflection I've done, etc. So yeah, that's number one. And number two, I have it here. The first paragraph is pretty important in my opinion. The first paragraph should be interesting. So the faculty who are reading personal statements are reading thousands and thousands of personal statements. So which means they get pretty sick of them and they read each one really fast, I would say. So in order for your essay to stand out, it should start interesting, not cliche like most other essays. So for example, like you can mention some kind of I remember one of the applicants that messaged me her essay. In her first paragraph, she mentioned how she was looking at this football player at a football game injured, and he was sent away because he was injured in the mouth, and she thought that he wouldn't be back, but he came back on the stage really quickly, so that made her think, oh, there must be a really apt dentist behind the scenes that are fixing these players' mouth so quickly. I bet I can do that pretty well. That was like her starting paragraph, which is pretty interesting and fun, you know. The point is, the first paragraph should make the reader kind of curious and make the reader want to read more. So yeah, there's that. And also, towards the beginning of the essay, maybe not in the exact first paragraph, but it should answer also the question of how did you get into dentistry? It's assumed that you want to go into dentistry, but they also want to know what sparked that interest, because that is an important detail, right? And also, the next point I'm gonna make, which seems obvious but sometimes goes overlooked, is the essay. The essay should have multiple reasons. I would say should lay out multiple reasons for why you want to pursue dentistry, but they should they they shouldn't be just a list of reasons. Like they should somehow you should be able to somehow write like a one sentence thesis that captures everything and unifies them and forms an overarching narrative for the essay. An overarching narrative must exist. A memorable overarching narrative must exist for the essay that will direct the essay. So it will be very helpful for you to write out like a sentence, a thesis for why do you want to be that answers why do you want to be a dentist, and dentist and can be in a overarching narrative form. An example of this, I'll give you one. So this one applicant that messaged me, like based on her, after I read her essay, the impression I got was that her overarching theme was basically she wants to help the poor, help the underserved through a public health lens, using dentistry as a medium for care and education. So that's like that sums up basically her approach, her plans to how to approach the dentistry, and using her own personal background on public health and her passion for education. And she views dentistry as a medium for care and education. So yeah, that's her narrative. And her essay basically expands upon this bit by bit. So yeah. The next point I was going to say was each paragraph should lead to one another such that the essay as a whole tells a story. Yeah, it shouldn't. It's hard to read an essay when paragraphs kind of every single paragraph kind of stands alone. I've read a few essays that are like this. Even if two paragraphs might have completely different contents, it would be helpful to have a good transition, at least. So every paragraph should have a transition, at least. Ideally, they should, content-wise, lead to one another in a coherent manner, maybe even in a chronological manner, such that it tells a story of how you came to choose dentistry and what events led up to it and things like that, and how your process of self-reflection developed. Yeah, it's just better to read that way. If it's a story, it sticks with the reader better and it's easier to understand. Okay, so the essay should also then demonstrate. Oh, okay, this is a really important point. So this point gets really overlooked a lot because, okay, so the point I was going to say is the essay should demonstrate or show the applicant's qualities more than explicitly stating those qualities. So what I mean by this is a lot of times the applicants make claims about their preparedness and qualities. Like for example, like I am very good. I am a very hands-on person. I'm a very meticulous person. I'm a very empathetic person, and I'm a very hardworking person, like at a basic level. And for these reasons, I'm prepared to take on dentistry, something like that, some variation of that. And the reason why that's bad is anyone can make those claims, even if they're not actually those things. Only a few people can make those claims and make it sound convincing, and that's with using corresponding examples backed by self-reflection and insight. Or another way, probably a better way to do it, is to not say it at all, but indirectly demonstrate these qualities in the examples you describe. For example, you can provide an example of like a patient who's undergone harsh procedure. You see that patient and you see that you kind of want to get to know that patient, and you're curious about that patient's life, so you go talk to him and you found out this, and eventually the patient shakes your hand, appreciates you for just talking to them or something like that, and you learned a lot about his life and you viewed him beyond his diagnosis and things like that. And that shows, even though you haven't explicitly stated, that shows that you're an amicable person, you're amiable person, and you are interpersonal, very interpersonal person, and you will be an interpersonal dentist. And you're also a very empathetic. All these qualities are shown indirectly, and that's more convincing. When someone says, I am good at art, I'm very, very good, I'm very meticulous, I'm very good at drawing, people will think, oh, really? Good, nice. But if you show them your drawing, it's so much more convincing, right? Same logic. So demonstrate or show your qualities more than explicitly stating them. The next point is similar. Sometimes people make, so a good essay should make philosophical, inspiring, or empowering claims, if they do, about dentistry or about oneself, and only when they are substantiated with example and corresponding insight and self-reflection, as I've said before. So, like for example, I'm able to serve the community at the highest level as a dentist because of how driven and passionate. That's pretty much the same thing. I think this point is pretty similar. So pretty similar to the point I made before. So yeah, any kind of inspiring, empowering claims, what I'm talking about, that you will make in the essay, try to have them, try to make them only when they're substantiated somehow prior to making their claim somewhere in the essay. You don't want to be just going around the essay making inspiring claims, hoping that the reader would read that claim and feel, wow, this guy is very driven, very, very inspiring, very passionate, very, very determined. Because the reader is more likely that the reader won't feel that, unless the essay that you've written so far has sort of led up to it, and so that claim sounds convincing because it's sufficiently substantiated. A lot of applicants have a lot of empowering, inspiring statements and claims in the essay, but none of them, not none of them, but a lot of them are not backed up. And they just come off as desperate attempts to buy the reader over using emotion. And faculty reads a lot of these essays and they will not be convinced. If I'm not convinced, they won't be. So that's, yeah, but that's a similar point as one I might made before. But the final point I was going to make is that the story comes back full circle in the conclusion with the narrative, the overarching narrative, with a touch of enthusiasm for the future, like excited at the prospect for your next journey, that is dental school. And that enthusiasm, something to show that you're positive and excited. Not a lot. That's all the points I've made that I think a personal statement should have. So I've already gone over, as I was doing that, some of the negative patterns that I've seen. So I'm going to read off the list of the common mistakes I saw, but I'll skip the parts that I've already talked about. So this one I talked about too, but a really common mistake I see is applicants write an essay that basically lists too many reasons. I want to go into dentistry because of artistry. I also want to go into dentistry because of the interpersonal nature. I also want to go to dentistry because of the private practice culture. I want to own my own private practice. I also wanted to go to dentistry because I want to serve the underserved. I want to go into dentistry because I love science. And you don't have to have all the reasons in the world to go into dentistry. You can just have a few, or even one really good one, to want to go into dentistry. Um, just listing reasons will not convince the reader, because they only scratch the surface. Each reason must hit home really hard. The only way to do that is they have to be elaborated in the essay, beyond just making claims. So a common mistake I see is the essay lists too many reasons for going to dentistry without having an overarching narrative. At least the overarching narrative it's not clear. It becomes vague and diffuse. It gets because of too many points being listed in the essay. And also another one is arrogance and redundancy. Arrogance is probably the number one thing you should avoid in a personal statement. I know that people want to convince the reader that they are prepared and they're competent, but that's already in the, so like your achievements, your GPA, your academic, your extracurricular accomplishments, your clinical accomplishments are already in the application, and your work ethics are be reflected by that. So you don't need to tell them that you have a really strong work ethic or drive, or make lists of accomplishments in the essay. That's redundancy. It will just take up space and it will just make you look arrogant. You should always sound as humble as possible, almost unaware of your accomplishments in the essay. The essay tells the reader nothing turns off the reader more than arrogance. So number one thing to avoid, arrogance. The essay tells the next point. The essay tells the reader about oneself. Okay, this is the one I talked about before. The essay tells the reader about oneself rather than show the reader about oneself. It makes vague inspirational claims without examples and/or philosophical justification. Like, for example, like the essay has too many unsubstantiated cliche phrases, like, it is my passion, blah, blah, blah. I want to help the poor, blah, blah, blah. If they're substantiated, it's fine. But if not, these won't hit home at all, because pretty much 90% applicants talk like this. Another example would be the essay makes a lot of unsubstantiated direct self-judgment claims like, I'm very good at hands-on tasks, or I'm good at empathy, or other things. And for the same reason as I said before, you should show them this rather than tell them this. Okay, so the next point I'm gonna make is, maybe this is kind of an optional one, I would say, but I saw a lot of like the typical, the stereotypical immigrant essay, or like the stereotypical I want to help the poor essay. While that's okay, because these essays are so common now, it's kind of hard to stand out. Not saying you shouldn't incorporate these points in the essay, but you should also have other things to make you stand out and unique. Like, I want to help the underserved and poor. Everyone does, okay? That can't be your main point. You could make it a main point and make it work if you have like a really, really interesting personal experience. Like if you're from like a third world country and you've experienced it all, then maybe, yeah. But it's really hard for you to stand out because this is a pretty common topic. The essay has too much. Just be genuine. You don't always have to want to help the poor necessarily. You can want to help the middle class and rich with aesthetics. That's fine. It just has to be a genuine thing. The essay that doesn't mean you should disregard the poor. You should always try to help the poor. Obviously, I think that goes without saying. That's a given. Another point is the essay has so much information about other people relative to one's own. Like, for example, their role models, parents, or maybe the dentist they've shadowed. They talk about how amazing they are and what they did and such. And sometimes they forget to talk a little more about themselves. Maybe like a paragraph, 90% of the paragraph is about them and 10% is about themselves. Remember, this essay is about you. Whenever possible, you should make these descriptions of other people brief, just enough to make a point. Um, yeah, okay, so it's, oh my god, it's 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna be very quick the rest of the points. So other common mistakes I see is talking about previous mental illnesses. And even if you've overcome them, these mental illness is one of the tricky topics that where when you talk about it to somebody and tell them about how you overcame it, they can empathize and they can applaud you. It's an admirable thing. But it's tricky in dental school essays because if you tell the admissions about the fact that you have struggled with major depressive disorder or anxiety disorder, but even though you claim that you overcame it, actually technically no one overcomes mental illnesses. They learned like fully. They learn how to deal with it, right? So I would say in 99% of cases you should stay away from talking about these things because even if you've overcome it, even if you've told them you've overcome it, they still prefer someone who has no mental illness over someone who has the potential to develop it again in a stressful environment, which is dental school. So yeah, it's one of those tricky topics, but it's always safer to err on the side of not mentioning mental illnesses. Um, Negativity towards other professions is also something I've seen, not as common, but I've seen it in a few essays. Like there is some people write as with the tone of like I chose dentistry because medicine wasn't I didn't like it, or like I chose dentistry because I didn't like pharmacy, something like that. You don't want to. Dentistry is great, it's an awesome profession, but you also don't want to sound negative towards other professions, or like overly negative, even in general in the essay. I would say um, humor and exclamation marks probably not the place to. Personal statement is probably not the place to do that. It's not professional. I know you want to humor them and elicit an emotional response in them, but this is not the place. Maybe in an interview, but not here. And final thing, the most obvious thing, grammar. Um, Make sure you have your grammar down like 110% because if you can't get grammar right, that says a lot. So grammar and spelling should always double check and triple check and then check again. So yeah, these are my advice for personal statements. Take it with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion based on just reading like 25 plus personal statements from STN. And yeah, so yeah, I'm still reading personal statements. So if anyone needs help, just DM me, I guess. I have an email in my channel. If you go to my description, like about section of my channel, I have my email there. You can email me and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, so because I've gotten like so many requests, like I'm still like reading. I'm still like doing other shit in my life. I am trying to prioritize better by providing people free comment for like just a brief general impression, my brief general impression. And I'm charging a small fee per draft to provide like a really in-depth feedback, like paragraph by paragraph, sentences by sentences, and the overall structure, overall tone, if it has an overarching narrative and such, if it is redundant, if there's any sign of cliche, unsubstantiated cliche claims, or too many telling the reader rather than showing, and such. I address all that. And I also give you suggestions for improvement, like maybe examples of how like alternative examples to how to write like a certain sentence or something like that, or an alternative approach, or like a suggestion for a narrative or something like that, whatever I think is fit, for like a small fee. And that way, with the fee, I am incentivized to prioritize that essay over others, and also incentivized to invest more of my energy and time into it. And I do enjoy helping out. So if anyone's interested, just email me. And yeah, I hope everyone is almost done with their essays and submitting soon because it's July 10th. And yeah, I guess good luck and make sure to get it read by a lot of people and various perspectives, like writing majors or non-writing majors or whatever, just pre-dental students, dental students, faculty, or pre-professional advisors and stuff. Yeah, because more the better. And yeah, don't feel bad about rewriting a couple times because every time you write it, it gets better and better. I had to rewrite the entire draft 5 times. So yeah, best of luck. I'm sure you guys can do fine. If you're watching this video, you're already ahead of the game. You're already someone who's actively seeking out advice and actively trying to plan ahead. So good on you. And yeah, I'm sure you guys will do fine as always. Just keep working hard. And yeah, if you're interested in any help, just message me. All right.